All right, greetings. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever part of the country that you may be in. Thank you to our second edition for tuning in to our second edition of our Spoken Word podcast brought to you by New Chronicles Church of Restored Worship. This is our second episode, and we are excited to have Pastor Damon Lynch III with us today, who's graciously taken time out of his busy schedule to sit down and talk with us about his ministry, his church ministry, his family. So we are grateful for you for tuning in. This is our second episode. We just started 2 months ago. We had Dr. Carl P. Atkins. So tune into that one that we had in February. So now we have Pastor Damon Lynch III, who is the proud pastor, as he liked to say, of New Prospect Baptist Church. So Pastor Lynch, it was good to have you. Thank you for coming, man. You have been a blessing. It's good to see you. Yeah. It has been a blessing to my ministry. Right. I served here for 3 years at New Prospect. You have been a tremendous.
You and your family.
Yes, me and the family, absolutely. Right. Yeah, you gave Sister Saint the opportunity to start our women's ministry here. Right. So we are excited about that. We thank you for everything that you have done for us. Right. But Pastor Lynch, you've been with New Prospect. Coming up now, I believe on 28 years you'll be celebrating. So we're excited about that. And but tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started out and how you got called into the ministry.
Again, man, it's good to see you.
Yes, sir.
And I'm proud of the work you're doing.
Thank you, Doc.
And your family, I know, is growing. And,
yes.
And spiritually,
yes,
as well as numerically.
Absolutely.
And I thank you for the work you did here.
Thank you.
And your call to the ministry, your commitment to ministry, your commitment to learning.
Thank you.
And growing and teaching. And
yes,
this
sir.
podcast is another example of your commitment to ministry, using this new technology.
Yes, sir.
So, young guys like yourself have to do this because older guys, we ain't got time for that.
Absolutely. Whatever it takes.
I have no idea how to use Instagram. I don't do Twitter. I do Facebook.
Yes.
So that's kind of simple. But no, I'm born and raised in the city.
Okay.
I've been here my whole life. I come from a family of preachers. My dad still pastors in the city of Cincinnati. My grandfather pastored for 30-something years in Kentucky. My uncle pastors Bethel Baptist Church now. My other uncle, pastors in Milford.
Wow. Okay.
Just a family full of men and women of God.
Absolutely.
Who accepted the calling on their lives. So I've been preaching for 36 years.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I just left Mountain Calvary Early Church of God in Christ this morning. I did a leadership workshop for them.
Okay.
And share with them my call because the church where I received my call was right around the corner from their church. I was on Herman this morning, but I received the call when I was 21 years old.
Wow. I
was at the Macedonia Baptist Church on a Friday night.
Okay.
On Dick Street, which is, both of these churches are in the community called Avondale.
Okay.
And I remember it. As a matter of fact, I just got done talking about the seriousness of your call, where I just left this other church, and I used as one of the texts Ezekiel chapter 1 verses 1 through 3.
Okay.
Where Ezekiel outlines his call, and he outlines it from the year, the day, and the month.
Okay.
And I talked about that your call will keep you.
Yes.
So when the ministry gets tough, you fall back on your call.
Absolutely.
Your call reminds you that this thing is bigger than you. So I was called on that Friday night.
Okay.
Macedonia Baptist Church. It was a youth revival. The preacher who preached that night was Donald Fairbanks. His sermon was entitled "God's Heavenly Bank Account."
Wow. Did he come from the book of Ephesians?
No, don't lay up your treasure on earth where moths and rust and thieves.
Right, got you. Okay.
Destroy, but lay up your treasure in heaven.
Yes.
And the title of his sermon was "A Heavenly Bank Account." After he preached, he did an altar call. Even though I was born and raised in the church,
right.
I didn't do altar calls. That was for the sick, the lame, the halt, the blind.
Right.
Right. But he did an altar call.
Okay.
And first of all, I don't even can't remember why I was in church at 21, because I used to be a whole lot of other places than church on a Friday night. But then I went up to the altar call, and I remember saying, "Lord, I'll go." I remember it just strongly, vividly. So again, I remember the place, the time, the preacher, the sermon. Just like Ezekiel says, I remember my call.
Right.
I left there and went and told my dad. Who was the pastor. I said, man, I've been called to preach. And I thought he'd be elated. I thought he'd be excited. He said, all right. He gave me some scriptures to read. He said, come back. And if you still believe it, then come back. He gave me Gideon and the putting out of the fleece.
The fleece, exactly.
So I read it, and I did it. I challenged God. I said, God, okay, if this is really what you want for my life, I need you to confirm it. I need to be clear. No equivocation. And in my heart and mind, God confirmed it. So that was 36 years ago. And then 29 years ago, the previous pastor of this church, New Prospect, got ill.
Okay.
And I was really scheduled that next Sunday to go preach at a church in Middletown that was considering me to be their pastor. Pastor Lane got ill here. Before he went in surgery and before he went out, he told the chairman of the deacon board to call young Damon.
Okay.
So they called me, asked me would I come down. I said yes. I called the church in Middletown, told them I'm not coming.
Okay.
They said, well, when can you come? I said, I don't think I'm coming at all.
All right.
And so for 1 year, I was here while Pastor
Transition.
Lane,
Okay, they were sick.
He was the goal was to see if he could recover.
Okay.
And come back and pastor. But after a year, became apparent because he lost his voice.
Okay.
And two things my father has always told me about a preacher is there's two things you have to have. And one is your name and the other is your voice.
Amen.
And your name means your reputation.
Right. So that's good advice to some young ministers to talk. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, if you lose your reputation, you're done. If you lose your voice, you're done. Pastor Lane lost his voice. Literally lost his voice.
Wow. Okay.
So after a year, they called me to be the pastor. So I've been doing this now at New Prospect for 28 years. And as you said, I am the proud pastor.
Yes.
Of New Prospect Baptist Church.
Right. And one of the things, Dan, when I was here, I served here for 3 years. I know, of course, Pastor Lynch, your father, obviously he had a strong influence on your life. But when I was here, you would talk about Sister Lynch, your mom. You would talk about her a lot. Yeah. How has she influenced your ministry?
Well, my mom is... I learned about mercy and grace from her.
Okay.
Before I knew Jesus, my mom exemplified that. My father was, pretty much a strict disciplinarian. He was a Marine, and so he came. He had all that Marine stuff, and and so and then I was, not the best kid. I got into trouble like a lot of kids do, and so he would be on me. And my mom would say, Damon, that's enough. And that's when I learned grace.
Okay.
She would step and say, that's enough. And so that's when I learned about what grace is and mercy is.
Okay.
And then I found Jesus at a later date. But I understood it first from her. And then, we have a small family. It's my mom, my dad, and me and my sister. My sister and I are about, a year and a half apart. So we're real close. She is more like my dad. I'm more like my mom. My sister's like outgoing and life of the party. Right. And my mother and I are thinkers.
Okay, all right.
Quiet and reserved. So, but they're both important to me. My dad was probably one of the wisest people I know, and I'm thankful that they're both still living.
Yes.
And I rely on his wisdom. We both do the same thing, pastor God's people.
Right.
But yeah, they're both important to me.
Okay, absolutely. I see your ministry kind of transition a little bit. You also on the faculty of, I believe it's
Asset-based
community up in Chicago, Illinois.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that and how that works into the scope of your ministry.
Right. Well, asset-based community development is a way to build communities using the strengths and assets and gifts that communities have, as opposed to focusing on the negative things of community, which is what we normally do.
Okay.
So it's like if I take this paper off of this bottle, and it's not quite half full, but let's say it was half full or whatever, then we ask people, is it half full or half empty? And most people will say half full. Some people say half empty.
Right.
But the answer is both. It would be half full and half empty. The emptiness in this bottle would represent everything that's wrong in community. And we always try to fix communities by focusing on the emptiness, but we neglect the half full.
Okay.
And so biblically, when I became part of the faculty at ABCD, it fit with my biblical understanding of how God works.
Okay.
So when God comes to Moses in Exodus chapter 3 and says, look, I need you to lead my people, Moses goes empty. Moses goes to fishing. Moses says,
right.
Hey, I can't talk. I'm not the right one. You must want my brother. Moses focuses on this. God then says, well, what's in your hand?
Right.
And that's the question that God always wants us to raise to the people that we minister to. What's in your hand?
Okay.
When Jesus is confronted with 5,000 hungry people or more, his question is, what do we have?
Okay.
You can come and tell me, Master, is late and they're hungry and we don't have no money.
Right.
So the disciples went negative. They went empty.
Okay.
And we train our people too often to go empty. And Jesus comes back with, what we got?
Right. But the resources that we have available to us.
Okay. And he's able to take what we have. And then you go to Psalm 23, verse 5, that he anoints my head with oil and my cup overflows. Well, what we've learned is this cup will never overflow by pouring into the emptiness of people's lives. Mm-hmm. It only overflows when we increase the capacity that already exists.
Okay.
So that's what asset-based community development is, but it's also a biblical narrative. It's how Jesus and how the Word of God operates. Okay.
Now,
that's unto men.
Okay. Now, in the scope of that, now do you go quarterly up there, monthly?
How's that? I've been part of that for over 20 years.
Wow.
I go around the country.
Okay. Strengthening communities.
Right.
Okay. That is fantastic. So not only are you a pastor, you're on the faculty, but you're also a husband. Mm-hmm. And you have 2 sons, and you have a daughter that you're raising. Yeah. How has that experience been, raising a daughter after raising 2 sons?
It is lovely. I love her to death. Okay. And there's a large gap. My oldest son is 33. My second son is 28. Okay. My daughter is 7, soon to be 8. And we adopted her from the day she was born. She was born in Cleveland, Ohio. And the day she came out of the birth mother's womb, they called us and said, come on up. We jumped in the car, drove to Cleveland, and brought home this beautiful baby girl. And it is different than raising those 2 boys. Right. and some of it may be, I'm 30 years older.
Right.
20-something years older than when I raised those sons.
Okay.
But God has also just blessed me in the last month with my first grandchild.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that, but congratulations on that. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I got a brand new granddaughter, 7-year-old daughter, grown sons.
Right.
So raising kids, I love kids. And I got a church full of them.
Yes.
And I treat them all like they're mine.
Yes. And all the ministry, when I was here, I know one ministry that Sister Turner and I that we really love was the Feed 5,000. Mm-hmm. Is there any ministry at your church, because you have a plethora of ministries, you guys are really out in the community, is there any ministry that you favor, or you just love all of them the same? Is there anyone that you kind of take to more than the other?
Nah. No, and I've been sharing this because I preached twice yesterday and just got done talking today. I'm trying to learn what Paul said he learned. I'm trying to learn to be content.
Yes.
And I like that Paul says I had to learn to be content. I love this congregation. I love everybody, but I'm not yet content. And so I'm trying to learn that. And so in my contentment, if I ever get there, then I'll probably not be satisfied.
Right.
I'm going to be content and not satisfied. So I'm not yet, and maybe I never will be, content.
Because there's always some work to do. I mean, there's always
plenty of it.
Right.
Plenty of it.
Right.
Plenty of it. So I'm probably not the best person to gauge because I'm just, I'm kind of critical. Mm-hmm. I expect the best. I expect however people define excellence.
Right.
I walked in today, and so when you leave, I'm probably going to go out there and either find the janitor or get the vacuum cleaner myself because we got a lot of people coming here today.
Right, absolutely.
And there's a lot of stuff on the floor out there. I want it up. So I'm kind of hypercritical.
Okay. What would you say? You mentioned contentment. We mentioned we are go-getters, and that's one of the things that's kind of connected me with you. was what would you say to a young man who just got called into the ministry, like you said, they got called,
right?
Or what would you say to a young pastor who's starting a pastorate? What type of advice would you give, or a ministry leader? What type of advice would you give them for the long haul to sustain them? What would you say to them?
Well, first, just love the people.
Mm-hmm.
Just love them. And I think that's probably one of the things that I try to do more than anything.
Okay.
I don't spend time in any kind of judgment. I don't throw stones. I just love them. So that's first, because if you love them, more than likely they will know that and they will love you back.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, spend time with family. Don't neglect your family as you do ministry, and then spend time with God.
Absolutely. And that is critical. I think a lot of people kind of take that out of the equation. They figure, but you have to learn to spend time with God, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, there are three things that I shared, I guess, wherever I've been talking a lot. Three things that are sacred. One is time. We always hear people say, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. Time is sacred, and God gives us time. Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything.
Yes.
Man, that's powerful. Just those words. There's a time for everything. There's a time for ministry. There's a time for family. There's a time for solitude. There's a time for everything. Mm-hmm. And you got to take that time. And there's two kinds of time. Of course, you know this.
Right.
There's Chronos time. That's that tick, tick, tick.
Right.
Time.
Absolutely.
But then there's Kairos time.
Yes.
Those special moments. Mm-hmm. And those special moments are more powerful and important than the tick, tick, tick time.
Right.
You'll forget 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, but you'll never forget when you first saw Sister Turner. You'll never forget when your first grandbaby came out.
Right, yes.
You'll never forget, the souls that you baptized, the people that you touch, those Kairos moments. And so we got to take time to acknowledge those. The second thing is food is sacred. Mm-hmm. We got to get back to cooking and get back to the dinner table, because at that sacred table, it's where prayers are offered. That's where family comes together.
Yes.
People watching this will remember you would come in the house and your mother was cooking, and the windows would be steamed up.
Yeah.
The pot would be boiling.
Yes.
But you can't raise a family on Happy Meals.
Right.
Right. Food comes from the ground. It's something that God gives us, and it's sacred. There's a book that this guy wrote, and it's about the meals that Jesus did. And if you go through the Gospels and see how often he sat at the table with his disciples, or sat at the table with others. And the last thing he did was at the Lord's Supper. Food is sacred, but then also silence. Mm-hmm. We got to get back to silence. And so silence allows us to hear God.
Yes.
In other words, in this day and age, we got to unplug. We are so plugged in.
Yeah, we plugged in. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I travel, and I'm in the airport, and I see people scrambling to get next to sitting on the floor so they can be plugged in. Seriously.
Right.
Everybody's got to be next to a plug. Mm-hmm. Because our lives are so plugged in. So God, in his infinite wisdom, gave us something called Sabbath. Mm-hmm. And he said, this is a time to unplug. It's the time to cease from the rat race. It's the time to cease from your work.
Yes.
All right? And give some attention to the things that really matter.
Okay.
And the thing that matters most is him.
Absolutely.
So that's would be, and it's hard to give young people advice, because I used to be young. Mm-hmm. And I remember my wife and I sitting at the table, and we'd have a financial planner guy come over, and he'd sell us some insurance. And he'd say, if you put this much away, by the time you're such and such.
By the time you're 75, yes.
And he was right. Yes. He was right. Yes. But I was buying cars and houses and Rottweilers. I was buying all kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I had the right advice. Mm-hmm. But in my youthfulness, now I'm sitting here 58 years old wishing I had listened.
Right. Gotcha.
So we give young preachers and pastors and leaders the advice they need. And prayerfully, they take hold to it.
Yes. Well, it will bode well. I learned this. It'll bode well in the future, though.
I will. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. We obviously, your pastor, Damon Lynch Jr., pastor, Newsroom, had a major impact in your life. What other pastors or preachers have affected your ministry?
My contemporaries, KZ Smith.
Okay.
Donald Jones, the guys that where the iron sharpened iron.
Okay.
The ones that I went to battle with.
Okay, absolutely.
That we hit the streets with.
Okay.
My dad is my dad, and he's the wisdom person. But those who then had a great effect on me were those that we marched together. We cried together. We struggled together. We traveled together. We raised our kids together.
Mm-hmm.
Those who we pastor each other. We talk all the time.
Right.
We share sermons. We battled over scriptures. So those who helped sharpen me.
Okay.
Had a great effect.
What have been what would you say was some of the highs, or maybe some of the lows that you'd like to share with us? What would you say some of the highs in your ministry and some of the lows in your ministry that you would like to share with us?
The highs that I enjoy now are the baptisms.
Okay.
I love getting in that water. No matter what age they are, it's baptizing new people into the body of Christ.
Yes.
I think the next high would have been moving from over the Rhine to here. Okay. Which was a monumental task.
Mm-hmm.
It was just huge. Trying to, it wasn't even hard to convince the people because we had outgrown where we were for years.
Right.
But,
mm-hmm.
This where we are now is just it's huge. I mean, we're sitting on a lot of land, a lot of building,
mm-hmm.
a lot of opportunity, and there was a point where I regretted the move.
Moving from over the Rhine to here.
No, not the move from the community to here, but this is even before we got here. Just trying to get
it. Get it right.
I
remember that.
Mm-hmm. Why did I even put myself in this position?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they say, if you got a mad dog by the ears, you can't let go.
Go right.
You're gonna bite your face off. So
right.
I'm holding this mad dog by the ears, like, man, why did I even do this? It was. So I had those Garden of Gethsemane moments.
Okay.
And so what I would again share to young pastors and leaders, you will have those Garden of Gethsemane moments where you say, Lord, if there's any way possible, get me out of this.
Okay.
Get me out of this. And of course, if Jesus had a Garden of Gethsemane moment, clearly we will.
We will, right, exactly.
But I held on, and I remember the Sunday we came up here was an Easter Sunday 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting enough, we had an 8 o'clock worship, and I'm standing in the pulpit, and I saw my mom and dad walk in, and I just broke down and started crying.
Wow.
I was under so much pressure. To see this vision come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And we got here and to see them come in, I broke down and cried like a baby. And since so 5 years later, God has just been, the growth has been tremendous. The ministries are expanding.
Mm-hmm.
So the lows, losing people.
Okay. People that you start out in the ministry with you, or you came close with at the church.
But the people who die.
Right.
They become part of your family.
Okay, got you.
And I don't think anybody deals with as much death as a pastor does
mm-hmm.
on the level that a pastor does. Doctors deal with death, but they're not as tied to the people who die as we are.
Right, yes.
Funeral home people deal with death, but they're not tied to the people either.
Mm-hmm.
We deal with death, especially in a church this size. It's like every week you lose somebody. And honestly, I don't think that's natural, that you have to deal with that much death. And so I'm losing family members like every other week.
Wow. Okay.
And there has to be something, that's hard. That's the hard part.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we talk, I'm doing some of my research, some things that I didn't know was I noticed you say village at the well, journey to village to the well. The church is the heartbeat of the community.
Right.
One of the things when I talked to Dr. Atkins, one of the things he's talking about was the church should be the focus of the community. Mm-hmm. This church is strategically placed in a nice community where I remember a couple of years ago we had a basketball league. We came right to our church. We had to go out to. We came right here. We practiced here, and that built relationships.
Right.
And Village of the Well. You want to elaborate on that a little bit? The Village of the Well and the thing behind that.
The Village Well. Again, for those who will see this, if you've ever traveled to any part of the world where well is important, where well is central. All life centers at the village well. That's where water is, and of course, water equates to life. That's where I was in Ethiopia one day, and myself and Pastor Chris Battle, we got up early, and where we were staying was up on a hill, and the village well was a little further down, and I start seeing the people, mostly women, making their march to the well. Because that's where the water is, life. That's,
right.
Where you can get water to wash your clothes, where you feed, you give to your cows.
Okay.
But it's also where you say good morning. How the kids. And if you read the scripture, the village well is important. Jesus met the woman.
The woman at the well,
and turned her life around.
Yes.
Moses met his wife at the well. Isaac's wife was found at the well. I mean, the well is central to life, and so just as it was central, if the church becomes that place, it becomes central to life of the community.
Okay, absolutely. Pastor Lynch, you've been gracious for your time. We thank you, man, for letting us come to your beautiful church. It's been different since I came here a couple of years ago. Things has changed. And Brother LeVar, our media ministry guy, we thank you for your time and your resources and your skills and your skill set. Tune in on www.newchroniclescincy.org to view this podcast, or you can go to our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/New Chronicles. So, Pastor Lynch, man, God bless you. We appreciate your ministry and everything you've done for me and my family as well. And we're looking for that book to come out in a couple of years.
Yeah. Okay.